Welcome. Let's do a practice together. This is a practice where we will be spending some time kneeling. So you're welcome to pad your knees with a blanket or a towel. But if kneeling or being on hands and knees is not appropriate for you, this won't be the best practice for you. So feel free to skip it and look for something else in one of the playlists on my channel. And there are lots of other videos that don't involve kneeling there. For this practice, it would work best if you have a small ball of some kind or a foam roller, and also if you have a yoga block. However, if you don't have these things, no problem at all. There are still ways that we can do this practice without them. So if you have them, find them. If you don't, stick with me. I'll give you some options. I'm going to take a moment in any position you want to start out in, just to feel into your body for a moment. Feel your connection to the floor. Scan through your body and notice what sensations are coming to the forefront. What are you noticing the most right now? Tune into your breath. And just see, how is your breath presenting in this moment? Does it feel smooth and easy, or does it feel ragged or just a little bit restricted? What's going on there? See if you can just get curious about what is. You don't need to fix anything right now. Take a few more breaths just to check in with what you're noticing. Really dropping your attention into your body. And then we'll take that awareness as we begin to move. So we're going to start out in table position, all fours. So feel free to pad your knees if you like with a blanket or a towel. And feel free to make adjustments here. So if having your hands flat isn't comfortable, you could come up on your fists. You could also come down on your forearms. You may find some of the movement is a little more challenging here, but this is an option as well. Sometimes it gives the wrists a little more ease if we take the hands forward of the shoulders or turn them out or take them a little wider. You also could use the blanket or a yoga mat underneath the heels of your hands. So feel free to make adjustments for your body as you like. Take a moment to find the center. So you might even sway a little side to side and forward and back, feeling the weight shifts in your hands and knees. And find a place where it feels like you're centered and balanced. And maybe even let a little of the tension go from your abdominal muscles. Nice, full, easy breath here. And we're going to do a little bit of cat-cow movement. Thinking about this movement having a direction for today. So we're going to think about starting with your tailbone and really traveling up the spine one joint at a time. So can't really move one joint at a time in your spine, but that's what we're going to be aiming for. And then we're going to be moving a little more slowly in order to feel into what that might be like. So when you're ready, you're going to take an inhale where you are. As you exhale, start with just the tip of your tailbone, tucking it underneath. You're taking an imaginary tail between your legs and allow that curve to travel up the spine so your low back is arching up towards the ceiling like a rainbow curve. Allow that to travel through the mid back and eventually the upper back. And the last thing that's going to happen here is the neck is going to move, the head is going to come down. Then when you're ready, you're going to start to move the other way. Tip of the tailbone comes up. Now here you'll find your spine needs to respond to that movement to some extent as you're going the other direction. But notice if something higher up the chain, higher up the body wants to respond earlier. And see if you can, to the extent that's possible, lift the tail first and let that movement travel slowly through your low back. So the low back is starting to curve down towards the floor, the abdomen is starting to come downward. And then the heart is going to come towards the floor as the upper back flattens. And then eventually you're going to start to look forward or even slightly up the wall in front of you. And then you're just going to move from one to the other, using your breath in a way that makes sense to you, taking your time as you move through the spine, segment by segment, to the best of your ability. This is not about getting it perfect. It's more about starting to activate more parts of your spine so that this movement is really well distributed. We're using some of those parts of your body that might be a little creakier and really taking the time to get a little bit of movement out of them. Not all joints of the spine move a lot, so it's okay that some areas move less. We're going to see if we can wake up all of those different areas. There's no rush here as you're moving. When you feel like you're ready to rest, a couple of options. Option one is bring the toes to touch, bring the knees wide so there's lots of space for your body. Bring your hips back towards your heels. And then bring your forehead down either to the floor or to your hands, or you might even grab that block and place it underneath your forehead, coming into child's pose. If child's pose isn't a good option for you, you might come to seated in any seated position for a moment and just tuck in that way. You're going to take a little bit of weight off your hands. Give your hands a little bit of a break. And see how it feels to have gotten your spine moving a little bit in this practice. And then when you're ready, we're going to come back onto all fours. So there's no rush. Feel free to take more of a pause in between segments. Because you're watching this as a video, feel free to pause it if you like and take a little more time to get a little bit more ease back into your hands. If that's helpful for you, you can break this practice up into sections. However it's useful for you, please use it that way. We're going to find that ball now. If you have a foam roller will work too. And if you have neither, don't worry, we can still do this. It's just going to look a little different. So we're going to come back to all fours, finding that tabletop shape. We're going to place the ball underneath your body. Take a moment to find center to release extra tension from your abdomen. And then we're going to ground firmly through the right hand. You're going to lift the left hand up and you're going to take the left hand over to this ball. If you have a foam roller, you're going to place it parallel to the long edge of your mat and bring your hand over to the foam roller. For this, now we're going to keep the hips still, so the pelvis stays still, the legs stay still. We're going to twist through the rib cage, and your rib cage is going to move around your shoulder here. Your left shoulder is going to drop down, but your hips are going to stay the same as you roll that ball over to your right, and then come back up. And then you're just going to roll back and forth a few times. This ball is intentionally underinflated, which makes it actually not the best for this. To get the idea. If you don't have a ball or a foam roller, you can just slide your hand on the floor. Okay. What we're looking for here is the rib cage to be moving around the shoulder, the hips to be staying relatively still, and this elbow, this right elbow that's supporting you, to be relatively still as well. So when you're ready, bring that hand back down, come back to your tabletop, and then you're going to find that ball or whatever you've got underneath you. And you're going to bring your right hand off the ground over to that ball, and then we're going to do the same movement so you'll have a chance to see it from the other side here too. As much as you can, the pelvis is going to stay still. The left elbow is going to stay the same. And it's really the rib cage moving around the shoulder. And twist happening in the spine. It's allowing me to move back and forth here as I come in and out of this twist. Pay attention to how you're feeling. Know when you're done. When you're done, you're going to find a resting position again, whether that's seated or lying down or child's pose, whatever works for you. Take a moment, give your body a break. Check in and notice how you feel. We're going to get off the hands now. So if your hands are done, that's good timing. We are still going to do a little kneeling work. So I like to use a little padding for this one myself, even though I'm on a carpet here. This is a little bit of work for the knees. So I'm going to go ahead and unroll this blanket here because I don't want that padding to be too thick because I want to feel supported still here by the ground. And then I'm going to come up to a tall kneeling position. And I'm just going to have my block around for later. I'll put it behind me so you can see me here. So you're going to come up to tall kneeling. Again, if this doesn't work for you, this may not be the practice for you. That's all right. You can always reach out to a teacher as well for some ideas to work around this if you want to. I'm going to mirror you, so hopefully it'll make sense to you when you're looking at the video. So you're going to think about your right leg as the supporting leg here. And you're going to shift your weight a little bit over that right leg. You're going to lift that left leg up and you're going to take the left leg out to the left. Okay. Now, for some of us, you're going to find that your pelvis tilts a little bit here. And that's just because you may not have the range of motion in this hip to bring this leg all the way out to the side without letting the pelvis tilt a little bit to the left. So see if you can be upright, though, in the left leg. Pelvis is just going to tip a little bit so the right hip comes up higher. And find a foot position that feels supportive for you. So if you don't want to have your foot turned parallel to your mat, no laws here. Feel free to turn it out a little bit. It's all good. And see if you can have that leg going straight out from the hip to the best of your ability so that there's not really like a wall kind of flatness here because we're humans, we're not walls. But more or less, we're kind of lined up here through the front of the pelvis. Take a moment to get really steady in the legs if you can. You're going to let your hand just gently drape over this left leg. If your right shoulder allows, you can bring your right arm up. And then you're going to take a little side bend out over this left leg, coming into gate pose. And there's different ways to kind of think about a side bend. So here, really think about your rib cage up into your armpit, elongating. Bringing your breath into that area to create more space in your armpit, more space between each rib. Now I'm not really putting pressure down into this leg here. I'm instead allowing the muscles in my torso to support me. And this is just a nice resting place for my hand here. When you're ready, you're going to come up. Now you're going to bring your right arm down, parallel to the floor. Actually, let's go ahead just for awareness and bring that right hand all the way to the hip. Now we're going to think about the pelvis tilting even more towards your right. So your right hip crease is maybe going to move a little bit towards the left. Your left hip point is going to reach up and over to the right. And you're going to come onto an angle here so that you're more lined up with the extended left leg. Now you might feel some work starting to happen here in your side body to support your spine. And you're just going to notice how this feels. If this feels good, you can be here. If you want to, you can take your top arm up towards the ceiling. It's going to feel a little bit different. And then if you want to add a little bit more side body strength, you can extend now this right arm out parallel to the floor in front of you. You can feel that makes your body longer, it makes you a little bit heavier. So use it if it feels good. But we're not doing the yoga practice to suffer, right? So make sure you still have a sense of ease within the pose that you're doing. Still breathing, still noticing what's going on. When you're ready to come out, hands come to the hips. Come upright through the pelvis first. Bring this leg down. And then to rest a little bit, let's come and just sit back on the heels, or you can sit onto a block behind you. And if this is not an appropriate seat for you, then feel free to sit another way. Just coming to a seat that feels good. Take a moment to breathe and notice. You may feel a little bit different side to side because we only did one side of that pose. And that's a big elongated pose, lots of strength work. So you might notice it feels a little different. So we'll even you out by doing the other side. When you're ready, you're going to come up. Find your tall kneel first. Knees more or less under your hips. And then you're going to shift your weight over to the left side. Take the right leg out to the right. Again, you might notice that right hip pops up a little bit. So that's just because you've come to the end of your range of motion in the hip. So if you find that the right hip's a little higher than the left here, there's no need to try to fix it necessarily. You may find your whole body then is tipped a little bit. That's okay too. If it's more comfortable to let this foot rotate, go ahead and let the foot rotate. Not a problem. But you might see if this leg, and try to go straight out from the hip, more or less, and then you try to bring this left side hip up over the knee. And then the first thing we're going to do is a little gate pose. So your right arm rests gently. We're not going to lean into the leg necessarily here. I'm going to bring your other arm up, and then we're going to do that side bend over to your right side. Thinking about really bringing your breath into the left side ribs up into the left armpit. So that as you're breathing in that area, you're creating more space in the armpit, more space between each rib, elongating through that left side. Nice, easy breaths. Maybe even seeing, is there anywhere that can let go here? Is there anywhere that's working more than it needs to? Definitely work is happening. Not everything can relax, you'll fall over. When you're ready, you're going to bring that arm down. Let's bring the hands to the hips again just to help you feel. So now we're going to take the pelvis. We're going to rock it over even further towards the left. Your whole body is going to come out in an angle now, kind of matched up with that right leg. Left hip's going to go in a little bit, right hip's going to lift up and over towards the left. You can stay here with hands on hips. You could take this top right arm up towards the ceiling. Or you could even, if you wanted a little more work here, you could extend your left arm out parallel to the floor, reaching out to the left. So you'll notice that adds a little bit of work. And then we want to still have ease, because that's how we balance things out, right? And then we find a way to work where we're not struggling. We're just doing the work with still ease at the heart of it, right? Still breathing. Still noticing whatever is going on. And then when you start to notice that you're done, bring your hands down to your hips. Bring your hips more upright. Step this leg in. And then if that worked for you, again, to sit back onto your heels or onto a block behind you, please feel free to do that again as a way to just kind of come into center and settle. And if this is not a good way for you, go ahead and sit a different way or lie down. A moment to connect with the floor, right? Feeling the support of the ground, of the block if you're sitting on a block. feeling your breath within your torso and maybe even beyond. Noticing the results of this short practice. You may feel at this point that you want to move your body more, in which case feel free to add on more practice if you like. Or you may feel that just working the kinks out of your spine by moving it in all the directions was enough to really change how you feel, and then you're ready to move on with your day. In which case, take your time and take some of this awareness with you if you like as you do that. Hope you enjoyed this practice. Please feel free to use any of these movements as however they're helpful. And may we all be balanced and well. Take really good care.